Resuming debate, the honourable member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Mr. Speaker, there can be no question that the high suicide rates experienced in First Nation communities are a national tragedy. Every suicide attempt and every life lost is one too many. And there are definitely far too many, as the staggering statistics underline. There can also be no question that the Government of Canada is determined to work with First Nations and their leadership to turn these distressing numbers around. We will do everything possible to support communities like Attawapiskat to prevent further suicides. While much of the attention in the past few days is focused on the situation in Attawapiskat, we all know that it is not an isolated case. The recent work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission underscores the extent of the social breakdown in many communities, often the result of the residential school experience that damaged so many individuals and families. Suicide is the most alarming manifestation of these serious social challenges. The loss of life to suicide and feelings of despair affect us all. They reinforce how important it is to work with First Nations and Indigenous people across the country to address the very real challenges facing many communities. It is vital to our country's future that the government work in a genuine partnership with Indigenous communities and provinces to ensure better social and economic outcomes for Indigenous people, especially youth. The government is currently working with all partners to design an engagement strategy for developing a national reconciliation framework. This reconciliation framework will be informed by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations, calls to action, and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Mr. Speaker, through our work on reconciliation, we commit to do important work where mental wellness, intergenerational trauma, poverty, child welfare, justice, and discrimination intersect. Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada and Health Canada are collaborating with other federal departments, provinces and territories, and other partners to look at long-term needs in mental health, child welfare, education, infrastructure, and employment in Indigenous communities. Specific to mental health challenges, changing directions, changing lives, Canada's mental health strategy has placed a priority on working with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis to address their distinct mental health needs. Priorities for action have been developed through dialogue between the Mental Health Commission of Canada and Indigenous organizations. Following discussions with Mr. Justice Murray Sinclair, Chair of the TRC, the Mental Health Commission of Canada pledged to bring a greater depth of understanding to Indigenous issues through activities and capacity building related to cultural competencies. It has created the position of Senior Advisor of Indigenous Affairs and is providing Indigenous cultural competency training to all staff. Of course, making real change also requires a new fiscal relationship with First Nations, a relationship that provides sufficient, predictable, and sustained funding for communities. And that's what Budget 2016 delivers. Because there is no relationship more important to this government than the one with Indigenous peoples. We know First Nations, Inuit, Métis, and Northern communities need urgent action now. That's why Budget 2016 invests a historic $8.4 billion over 5 years to improve the social economic conditions of Indigenous people and their communities. As the Chief of Attawapiskat First Nations told reporters this week, Indigenous suicide is not just a mental health problem. Unemployment, lack of access to education, and substandard infrastructure are contributing factors. Economic hardships and the legacy of colonialism are key factors in high suicide rates also. Understanding this, the Government of Canada is taking a comprehensive approach to social investments, from repairing and constructing homes and schools on reserve to providing early childhood development programs to increase supports for child and family services, to boosting funds for skills development and job training. We are keeping our promises for a renewed relationship with Indigenous people, one based on a recognition of rights, respect, cooperation, and partnership. In short, reconciliation. A relationship that provides sufficient, predictable, and sustainable funding to First Nation and Indigenous communities. A relationship based on understanding that unilateral decision-making and a top-down solution don't reflect the needs of Indigenous people, and a relationship that understands that secure personal and cultural identity is the bedrock of success for their communities. The budget and our efforts to date demonstrate this government's commitment to closing the gaps and ensuring social justice. Colleagues, as we move forward together in a spirit of reconciliation, honoring and respecting the cultural identity of Indigenous people, we will sow the seeds for a more promising future that gives youth both hope and opportunity to create a better country for us all. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Yorkton Melville.
I just want to say that I really appreciate this opportunity we have tonight to discuss this, and the comments that have come from the leadership on the other side of the House as well as here has really been encouraging to me. And as a member of Parliament who has 3 reserves in my riding, I want to say that we need to work together, and I need your help. And when I hear that we need to be empowering the people in their bands, I fully support that. I have individuals coming to my office, and the minister knows about this, and I would say are dealing with an incredible amount of loss of hope, partially because of the discussions in this room tonight about our responsibilities as a country, colonialism government, and part of it that they are the people that are not getting the support that they need from their band leadership. Politics exists at every level. And when I was running for office and I studied, I found that there are reserves in this country that, as the minister said, are doing phenomenally well. And they are doing really well because I believe they have strong leadership on the ground in their reserves where they value their people. So, you know what? I'm a new member of Parliament. I'm at an age where I'm not interested in pretending or playing politics. I want results for the people that are living in my riding on reserves that, quite frankly, live in fear and do not know where the money is, where it has gone, and want that education. But we have issues here that are very, very complex.
The honourable member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Stop.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for the question. I've been dealing with and working with First Nation communities both in Alberta, British Columbia, and Northern Ontario. I can tell the honourable member that all members of First Nation governments want to see the best for their community. No one wants to see the horrible tragedy that's has occurred in Attawapiskat and other tragedies that have occurred across the country. To lump all First Nation communities in the same category or have a pan-Aboriginal approach isn't productive. What we need to do is talk to each individual First Nation community and have them develop their own solutions. And we, as a government and our provincial partners, need to work with them to solve the problems in the communities.
And comments. The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Speaker, I want to follow up on my colleague's comments about the solutions at the grassroots, because we're talking great things tonight, but again, the worst thing that can come out of this, and no offense to the Departments of Indigenous Affairs or Health Canada, but they come up with a program and they announce it, and then we have to have every single community in the country try and fit the criteria and then be denied by bureaucrats because it's not useful. When I would like to come out of tonight with a commitment that, you know, when ITK and Inuit have a health mental strategy, that if it's a qualified plan, they've implemented. In the Anishinaabe Nation territory, if they have a plan for mental health that works for their communities, that they implemented, that it's no longer the hamster wheel of programs running in these various departments because they're programs that fail. So I'd like to hear my colleagues if they will say that in the terms of mental health services, we will take the funds here and put them into in the region so that they can do what needs to be done culturally and correctly. Thank you.
The honourable member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question. As the honourable member knows, we sit on the Indigenous Affairs Committee together. We're going to be studying a lot of important issues as we move forward. I know the departments are reacting right now to serious crises, but we need to come up with solutions that are long-term and that will help communities get out of this cycle of dependency and despair. The honourable member well knows that we hope, and we work collegially at the committee, and we hope to have answers and solutions for the government going forward so that we don't spin our wheels as we move forward.
Resuming debate, the honourable member